So if you
I
could
want to
sit,
hear that speech.
if you could sit, that would be great. Thank you everybody for coming, and this is just about informing, as parents, we are all members of the association called the Waldorf School, and this is our association meeting, so to speak, and all of you come here to be informed. I know it takes time, I appreciate it, and inform parents and inform community members make for a stronger community. So I am with that very brief speech, actually. Turn over to Craig or Mitch. Craig.
Thank you. Good job, Jim. Thanks everybody also for coming. So I just wanted to say just a little bit about the forum of the evening. So we're going to hear from Gerhard a little bit about the finances of the school, current, and then hear from Mitch a little bit about advancements. And then the main focus of this is to kind of remind us all about the strategic plan that the school created in 2010 and how far we've come and what we need to do and what's coming next. And so, the board and the college and the faculty, and with input from hundreds of parents, created the strategic plan in 2010. And so we'll dig into that, and then we'll have some time for Q&A if people have. And as a reminder, we record this and actually we're streaming it live on YouTube, and then people can watch it. So in addition to people here, there's usually 5 or 6 people online, and then another 20 or so watch it later, hopefully more. So with that, I will turn it over to Gerhard. Thank you.
Yay. Director of Finance and Operations. So we switch to So I just want to start quickly with a brief financial overview. So this is sort of as of last fiscal year. For me as a finance person, that's the most important, one of the most important things, asset and liability. It shows something about the school. So as you see, we have about 13 million in liabilities and 23 million in assets, about $10 million in equity. It's a solid number, so that means we are in a good, stable financial situation. Debt ratio is 57%. So interestingly, if we would go back to 2014, just 3 years ago, instead of 10 million in equity, we would have 5.5 million equity. So that means in the last 3 years, we have essentially gained $4.5 million in improving our structure of the whole balance sheet, and that's mainly by the endowment campaign, successful endowment campaign, $3 million, over $3 million, and then as a consequence of that, by refinancing our bond, which also reduced our liability by about $2 million, so that improves our balance sheet dramatically. So, and that also means we are ready for a big expansion of the construction project here without any financial risk in our debt will not be too high. Anyway, so that's a good way to start. You probably have seen these charts of operating revenue, almost $14 million, grade school, high school, nursery and aftercare. So it's about 92% of revenue comes from tuition. And then if you look at the next slide, you'll see that where we spend it, and 58% goes to salaries and benefit of that, and then 21% tuition assistance. So that's sort of where usually how my thinking is, that I consider the whole finances of the school in 2 different cycles. One is the operating cycle that we see here. That means tuition income goes towards salaries, positions, and program expenses. And then there is the other cycle that's not really shown here, which is sort of the savings through refinance, capital, campaign donations. So that goes towards facilities, sustainability, infrastructure. For me, I keep them separate, so just to make sure parents understand that the tuition doesn't pay for construction. It's totally 2 different things. The next slide shows the endowment. It's a beautiful curve. So we had $2.6 million as of the end of last year. The yellow part are still outstanding pledges that are coming in over the next couple of years. Past performance was 14%. That's stellar, probably not happening again this year from how the year started. So, and you see the funds it's invested in. So we have 8 sub-funds. There's the general endowment, and then outdoor classroom, unique grant, faculty, diversity, student counseling, and so on. So and this year, first time we started distributing out of the endowment towards the program. And that's in the donor's interest that we started to draw 4% or $110,000, which goes towards salaries mostly. That's the biggest chunk. And then the outdoor classroom program, multicultural training, drug alcohol prevention programs, things like that, that come out of the endowment get financed to that, so that the money doesn't just sit there, but also gets to work towards our program. So that was the intention. All right. The next slide is about next year. So this was past year. Now we are looking into the future. The 18-19 number is a projection for the future. So that's enrollment, our most critical vital sign, essentially, if you want to. So the total that we project is 457 full-time equivalent students, 43-year means it's about 50 families that come 2 days and 3 days. So but full-time equivalent is the university. So the high school is with 163, as high as ever. That's encouraging. There's still space to grow. The grade school is, you see, it's varying between 280, the highest, which is probably the capacity, and right now we're projecting conservatively 260. There's a little softness in the kindergarten area, which we are addressing this time. So I hope it will come out a little better like this. So we're trying different measures to improve kindergarten enrollment. And the nursery, the bottom, our entry level, is just full to capacity. We have 4 applications per spot, so it's just full. So the next slide shows the tuition, and I just want to talk about it because the tuition contract just went out last weekend, essentially, and it's a very high price. I'm really aware of that. We had an increase, 5.7%. We had a higher increase, and looking at where the whole market is, where we are part of it, I don't think it's still, St. Warren School offers a great value proposition. So, I mean, if you compare to others somehow, and of course every comparison isn't really 100%, but also our tradition includes field trips, athletic uniforms, and teams, and equipment, and teaching supplies, all of that, which will be on top of most of the other schools. So when I show this chart, it doesn't mean that we want to be on the top. I mean, that's not the goal. That's not the goal. I just want to show everybody that we are reasonable, we are good value. We do need to, and we have in the past 3 years increased more because we were falling behind in our teacher salaries, and you can see that in a minute. And that was our main goal, to bring our teacher salaries up to a standard of, to a level where they could actually afford living here in San Francisco. So that's why the raises were high. We don't want to change the whole dynamic of our competitors. So that's how it is. So the next slide also shows, so what do families do who are committed and can't afford it? So here's the answer. We don't want to become an exclusive private school. You see over the last, that's 9 years, the tuition has increased 41%, which is, substantial. And the tuition assistance has increased by 76%, so almost twice, and that's just to guarantee that our families are still able to afford this education. That's the only way we can make sure, and then people are encouraged to ask for it, even if they don't qualify. Sometimes they do qualify, so the average award at the grade school is about $11,000. The average award at the high school is $17,500, and 43% of our students do receive some kind of financial assistance. And we also do have scholarships at the high school, which are actually full scholarships. So that's sort of the universe of our support that we can offer to offset the just very high tuition increases. And where does all the money go? That's our main concern. The teacher salaries. And if you remember, I think 2-3 years ago, there was the compensation committee, the board compensation committee, that established goals where we needed to go with our salaries. And we have come a long way. Over the last 3 years, we have increased 20%, and we will be increasing another 5% this year. That means we have increased 25% over the last 4 years. And with that, we will actually have caught up with the goal. Our goal was to be comparable. We have 90 percentile of large urban Waldorf schools, which you see on the list, which is Steiner School in New York, Richmond, Chicago, Honolulu, all these schools who live in high-priced areas. And we wanted to be the 90th percentile there. It's great Waldorf teachers. So there is no reluctance to apply to come to San Francisco. There's no, so we can attract and also retain the Waldorf teachers. That's what the teachers we wanted to have. So we will have, you see, last year we were 8% away from our goal. Just half a year ago, we were 2% away from our goal, and with this salary increase, we will have actually caught up and reached our goal. So that's really encouraging. Still, compared to the San Francisco independent schools, there's still a gap of about 18%. But that's manageable because we have certain benefits that they don't have. There's not so much crossover between other schools and our teachers. So that was the goal that we tried to reach. So that's the short financial overview. I think that's my part. And with that, I'm going to give it to Rich.
I think many of you might have heard this several times, but I also, in the same way as Gerhard does, we think about fundraising, especially these years that we're in campaigns, in two different avenues. So the first avenue is annual fund, which actually goes to the daily work. That's our operating expenses. So everything that parents pay into tuition doesn't actually cover the full cost of our education. And that's done on purpose. That is to enable us to offer tax-deductible gifts for families. It also keeps our education affordable for more families, as you saw through Gerhard's slides. So annual fund is very important for the annual budget, the operating budget. This is a slide that goes back 9 years that shows our increases in annual fund. This year we're projecting about 506,000. There's a lot of work that goes into that projection, and we're pretty close every year. And so we're tracking this like 500,000 level that has this one anomaly in 2015-16. That was the year that we received a $100,000 matching gift from a parent that really encouraged a lot of giving towards the end of the year. these numbers, we really would like to see up at the $700,000 range. 700,000 to 800,000 is where we as a school should be for the size of our student body. And we're headed there. During these years, from about 2013 and on, we've actually been through an endowment campaign and then now in a capital campaign. And so I'm encouraged that these numbers, once we're out of this campaign time, that these numbers will increase. But I think we should all be proud that these gifts come from all over our community. This gives you an idea about the different levels that we have for support, so that you can see at the $20,000 gift and up, we get about 4 gifts at that level every year to annual fund. All the way down to where at $2,500 to $5,000, we get about 32 gifts at that level. That level is important because the funding deficit between the tuition and what it costs to educate the child, it is about $2,700, and so that's really key level there. But then all the way down to our goal of about 320 gifts of all sizes, up to $1,000. And so we really do get gifts all over the place. And the idea has been 100% participation, because what we can do then is go to foundations, and they really like when your whole community is in support. Foundations don't want to give money to a losing cause, basically. They want to help you make your money work. And the way, some of the signals of that are for schools are strength in enrollment, which we've demonstrated, strength in endowment, and strength in giving percentages. So, even a gift of $100 that is the most someone can afford helps us get closer to that.
Do your statistics include the matching gifts from corporations?
They do. These do include. And so the way that we count matching gifts are actually if a family gives $2,500 and it is matched by $2,500, that actually goes as a $5,000 gift. And so that would be at a matched level. And for those of you who don't know, a lot of companies do matching gifts 1-to-1. Some of them have maximum matches per year, but that's a strong growth area for our school. We receive nearly $100,000 a year just for annual funding in matching gifts. And again, of all sizes. We've had matches of $250 all the way up to $20,000. So it's a very strong area.
Another question, where you say need X gifts for each level, what does that mean?
This is our current, right now, where we are in the annual fund. That's about how many gifts that we need still at that level. So we, as an example, in the benefactors area, $5,000 to $10,000 gifts, we want to get 14, and so far we've received 7. And so we're looking for 7 more. And so right now we are, as a school, about 65% participation. I think it's a tough year because we're running this campaign. We're being very assertive with the campaign and at the same time asking for annual fund gifts. And our guidance at the beginning of the year is we were hoping that everybody could match what they gave to annual fund last year. And if they did not give a gift to annual fund last year, to establish a giving pattern in annual fund, and then think about the campaign. And that is playing out for the most part. There are gifts coming in that have, moved their annual fund gift a little bit, but for the most part, our community is stepping up. So right now, those are still the gifts that are outstanding. Many of these also come from outside our community. So this includes, when I say outside our community, outside our current parents and faculty and board. We have alumni giving, we have alumni parents that give, our grandparents give, and then we also have a handful of neighbors who give gifts every year. So that's included in these numbers. That takes us to a total of about 506,000.
What about the script program, the Rainbow Rosary?
The script program goes into annual fund
Okay.
as well.
So it's in there.
It's in here. And so our larger gift program, script programs are Sports Basement and Rainbow, and those usually fall about from 1,000 to 5,000 a year. Sports Basement has been higher in the past, but they changed their program a little bit, and so it came down. And then these other script programs that you might read about in the bulletin, there's like Good Eggs and Primary, which is kids clothing. All of those, we're getting checks all the time. We do iGive, that's online, it's a plug-in to your browser, and we get checks every month for like $35. And so over the course of a year, that adds up to quite a bit of money, and that's just ongoing script programs. So if you wanted to know about those, we have a web page, but you're also welcome to call me and we can walk through how to get your whole thing set up. Amazon Smile is a big one that's growing because a lot of people do shop on Amazon, and you can put a browser plug-in that just switches it. Anytime you go to Amazon, it'll switch to smile.amazon, and you select San Francisco Waldorf School, and we get that. And that one is, I think, about $150 a month that we're getting right now. And it's actually, we see it growing. Awesome. So the next thing is the campaign. This is a slide that Gerhard prepared for me to just show from February of 2017 through this year how we have grown. This is through a lot of hard work by Connie and Jim, who are our campaign chairs, and Craig and Gerhard and Grace and Eric and myself, and Karen's on the leadership committee. It's been a lot of work. We've had great parties, these class parties that are social, and then we give a little pitch to show them what we're going to be able to do with this new facility. And these numbers are really encouraging. We have about 4 months left in the campaign. Taking that pyramid angle, this is what we need to get to $8 million. And so at the top level, we have, that is our lead gift that came from an alumni family of $1 million. They actually gave $1.1 million because they seeded this project a long time ago with $100,000 that actually helped us into planning, and then followed that up with $1 million gift. And you'll see with these little like amounts here about what we need and the amount that we've received. So down here on the bottom is a commitment of $2.65 million that comes from foundations and the school. The board and the school was in a position after the endowment campaign to set aside $2.5 million to help us with this campaign. And so the school and you as parents and faculty have actually contributed that amount just by giving and making our school strong. So we're headed towards 8 million with these numbers. These slides and this presentation will be available. I don't want to spend too much time on this because we've got some more fun stuff on strategic planning. Anybody have any questions? Sure. Here? Oh, right. We just got samples of the plaques that, these are the plaques, if you can get $5,000 and above, this is a plaque that will be on the bleachers in the new center. And we're also going to have a big giving wall that's going to have a bunch of names on it because there's, already we have 283 gifts, and that number is going to go up significantly over the next several months. But these are an idea of the kind of plaque that we'll have there.
And Mitch, on those plaques, $5,000, right? Affixed to the bleachers, your name, whatever you want to put on them. They're pretty big. And we're taking 3-year pledges. So if you figure the math out, it's $5 a day, which is a cup of coffee. Over 3 years gets you a plaque on our bleachers. And if we can get 200 families to do that, that's $1 million.
And you don't drink coffee, so that's good. or so I hear. Maybe you can stop in at the school and we'll serve you tea. How about that? Now, so here's some upcoming events that I wanted to just put up, and I know that we're all busy in our lives, and this is just a taste of the events that are coming up, to be honest, because there are games going on. There's a high school basketball game on Thursday, 3:30 at Kezar. Baseball's starting up, soccer is starting up, so there's a lot of stuff to do. These are the ones that the advancement office really helps plan, and so I wanted to give a shout out for these bigger, wider community events. Our online auction is going to start March the 5th. If you have a business or you want to donate something, we are still accepting donations. If if you are always going to a specific business, we can give you a letter and a donation form. You can just drop it off, and we're getting all kinds of stuff, gift certificates, items. And then spring night is Saturday, March 10th. We're going to be at Bimbo's again. Hopefully everybody's received their invitations this past week, and we'd love to see you come. Also, if you can, we encourage you to buy angel tickets for faculty members who will then come on those tickets. So, as Gerhard pointed out, we're paying them more, but we can never pay them enough. But it's a way to show your thanks and your gratitude to our faculty. And there's also sponsorships available. Then we have Grandparents' Days coming up. We need addresses. So if you haven't sent us grandparents or friends' addresses, again, go on the website. There are links, or look in the bulletin. Spring break is in April. And then we're going to try something new we used to have Mom's Night Out and Dad's Night Out, and with so many things going on this year, we're going to combine them. And who's going to watch the kids? 8th graders, 7th graders. Get your babysitters lined up right now on Saturday the 5th. It's the night before Mayfair, so if you got a little kid, you go out that night. Kids the next day, you can just hang out in the park and, be a little down. We're going to have an event here. Frank Mellis, who is a new 9th grade parent and owns Golden Gate Wine Cellar, is going to host a wine tasting here. And so he is bringing in a lot of wine people, representing what? Yeah, not a big wine person myself, but it's going to be fun, and we're going to have a big wine tasting. And then Mayfair is the next day, like I said, and then Founders Night is the next week. And then the 3-on-3 basketball tournament in June, which will be at the JCCC in Japan. I think that's all of the events that we can fit on the screen. Our next thing, I'm just going to turn this right over to Craig to talk about strategic planning.
So I'm just going to kick it off. And then from Karen and Lois and Jessica and Mitch and Karen again and me again. But this is just a reminder, so I started about a year ago in this job. And one of the first things I did, and as I was being interviewed for this job, we spent a lot of time talking about the strategic plan. So I started to dig back into this. I was on the board actually at the time, just after it was created. But I started to dig in, and it was striking how far we've come in 10 years. And, some people like Karen have been here for almost 7 years or more. 20. But, this was created at a completely different time and place for the school, where, parents weren't sure what Waldorf education was about. We were really growing into our body. The school had grown, but didn't really know how to manage itself in a professional way, or in a way that enabled the programs to thrive and continue to grow. So it was really a plan for growth and how to live into that growth. And what you'll see, what we all started to look at, is how far we've come and how much we've grown. And so we'll go through some these folks and other folks will read actually some of the goals. We're going to literally read them out loud, the goals, so you can see, and then pick 1 or 2 highlights from each area. And the plan had 5 parts. I don't know if you want to switch to that first one. So the plan had these 5 areas. So we're gonna actually read the goals that were in there and then highlight a couple that are just, that show the progress, but you'll see slides that list a bunch of things that have happened in each area. And then we're gonna talk about some of the things we haven't been able to do or have failed at. And then what comes next? And really the next thing is the next strategic plan. You know, the world has changed, our school has changed, children in front of us have changed. And what do we as a school want to provide for this new world? And what does the new world need from us? That's really, you know, that's what teachers ask about each group of children in front of them. What do these children need from teachers? And as a school, we want to ask that same question. What does our community and the world need from the school? And that's what we're going to create next. But in the meantime, we're going to spend a little time talking about this, and at the end, we'll have Q&A. And so I'm going to turn it over to someone else. Start us off.
Good evening. Not everybody. Laurence Jacquet, and I am the upper grades resource teacher at the grade school, as well as the college chair at this time, my second and last year. So these were our goals in 2010, and we still have 2 years to go on this plan, or a year and a half, so we can still, maybe complete some things. But I'm not going to speak to all these points. I'll read them out for you, though. These were our goals: deepen faculty work, evaluate faculty roles, enhance student assessment, create or expand specific programs, continue developing educational support services, clarify relationship to technology, expand international programs, broaden community educational opportunities. And I'm not going to speak to all of them. The next slide will show you how we made progress in some of these areas. I am going to address create or expand specific programs. And we've done a lot in that area, both at the grade school and at the high school and at the nursery level, if you think back 10 years. But I'm just going to concentrate on what we've done in the middle school to bridge our programs between middle school and high school, or grade school and high school, which was also one of our goals. So we've made many changes and improvements. Some of them go towards coordinating our programs. So when a child transitions from 8th grade into 9th grade, there is of course a change. They're going from middle school to high school, but there is also something familiar and something that translates. The first of these changes was to align our foreign language program. We used to teach Spanish and German at grade school, and at the high school, then the high school switched to Spanish and Mandarin. And we were a few years behind in doing that, which created difficult situations with very small German classes in the high school. And so we decided to switch our second foreign language at the grade school from German to Mandarin. And now the 8th graders who are going to the high school have had Mandarin almost since first grade. So they're very proficient at it. Another similar change, and along with that, we also modified our foreign language program in 7th and 8th grade to specialize into one language and deepen that one language. So in 7th grade, the students choose either Mandarin or Spanish, and they have 3 periods a week of that language, which then allows them to enter the high school, again, more proficient. Another area we decided to address was that of math and science, and we created a new position for a math subject teacher, which we hadn't had until then. The class teacher carried the math classes in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. We now have a specialist teacher, and that allows also for better coordination between the high school and the middle school, as the same program is taught precisely every year and in collaboration with the high school to check what is needed, what is changing in the high school, how we can adapt in the grade school to meet the requirement of the high school. And when I say high school, I mean not just our high school, but high schools in general in the city. And a year and a half ago, we created what is my position at this time, which is the upper grades resource teacher, which means mostly a science teacher. I teach physics and chemistry to 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, only physics to 6th grade, and an additional block of the teachers choosing as I cover blocks for them. This year, 8th grade geometry, last year, 6th grade geography, so that's a floater block that changes. But in teaching, in carrying the physics and chemistry curriculum, again, I work very closely with the high school teachers, and we've been able to enhance and develop further the curriculum and make sure that what we're doing is congruent with what's happening in the high school later on. So it's been a great benefit on both sides of the 8th grade, 9th grade bridge. We also, now this is less related to programs and positions, but we have streamlined the early admissions process to the high school. We have added a week for the 7th graders at the high school. In the spring of 7th grade, the students come here for a week and are taught by high school teachers, but within their class, usually science classes and then some music and art experiences also, so that they get a sense of what the high school will be like. And then they come again in 8th grade to shadow and so on. And we're trying also, and that is our wish, our general wish, that we feel more like one school despite the fact that we're geographically separated. So we're trying to maintain and enhance these events where we are all together. And the main one is the Stone Grove Assembly that hopefully many of you have come to and will come to. That's in the fall, typically. And although it's very different in the spring also, but we find that fall around the time of Michaelmas has been a good time. And this year, for the first time, the entire school went to see the Eurythmic Troupe, which was really wonderful. We weren't all together because couldn't fit. It had to be 2 separate performances, but it was quite wonderful to all have that experience. And for the little ones from as young as nursery school, I think the nursery school children came to see these high schoolers on stage was quite wonderful. Yes, we've also have strengthened the athletics program, and that has also carried nicely from middle school to high school. So these are some of the things we've done in addition to everything else you can see here, and Karen will tell you a little more about our educational support program.
Can I ask a question now?
Yes,
Should
of
I hold
course.
it to the end? These seem like really great improvements, but I wonder if there's a way does the school try to evaluate the effectiveness of each of these changes to decide if it's a good change or if it needs to maybe be changed further, or?
We're continually evaluating what's working and what's not working. I wouldn't say that we have a system of evaluating that would fit all of these different aspects, but we're always evaluating what we're doing and questioning.
What form does that take?
What's-
Is it, do you
It's
do,
mostly in our college and steering meetings, and I talk a little bit more about that in a moment in our governance model.
So there are many things, of course, as you can see, that we could talk about that have been developed over these last 10 years. But tonight, we decided to talk about our educational support program. And one thing that you may already know as parents, and I hope you know, is that a Waldorf school and San Francisco Waldorf School in particular, both at the grade school and high school, really honors students' diverse ways of learning and of being in the world. And so our educational support has always been integrated into the fabric of our education. That was something that Steiner intended. The curriculum, as I said, well, we integrate movement, experiential learning, and artistic expression into most of what we do. And the teachers really help students discover not only the joys of learning, but how to meet challenges with resilience and persistence. So our teachers and our educational support providers, they really have a long view of where the child begins and where they're headed. So, and that's something unique, I think, in our program. We recognize the value of integrating educational support into the curriculum. And a little over 8 years ago, we decided to develop a formal educational support program. I think at the grade school, and Jessica will talk about the high school. And over the years, that program has grown and developed. It's taken some different forms, and this is a program that we're constantly reviewing and really trying to get better at doing. And this year, we felt was the right time to really do a comprehensive review of the program. So we invited class teachers and subject teachers into our care group, which is the body that holds the educational support program, to talk about what student needs were, who needed what in each class, what was working, what wasn't working, and what maybe did we need more of. And so through this review, one of the outcomes was that we recognized the value of having really age-specific educational support, focus, and attention. So we decided, and we put into the budget process this year, a new position for an upper grades educational support coordinator. Over the years, we've had one person carrying the whole school, and we felt that was really too much to handle. Plus, the needs are so different. And so, so that position has already been posted. And I'm excited to tell you that there's already been a lot of strong interest from qualified Waldorf trained professionals. So we do provide many services on site for students, and those students are served out of our own assessments. Many of them are really Waldorf based, coming out of our pedagogy. And then as the students get older, we start to look at more traditional, mainstream, standardized assessments. So those of you who've been parents here for a while probably recognize some of these. Some of you who are coming in at the high school level, this is what was happening to about half the high school students before you joined them. Anyway, so in kindergarten, we do a first grade readiness screening, and that's really a look at the child's integration and developmental movement and things like that to see if they're really mature enough to start that process of really being in seat and ready to take on academic learning. Now, after that, we give them a year to integrate to the school and to kind of catch on. And in second grade, in the fall, we do another developmental screening. And so that again is looking at how they are integrated into their bodies, whether or not they're crossing their midlines, horizontal and vertical, hand dominance, eye dominance, so on and so forth. Then in fifth grade, we do kind of a combination. We look at their academic milestones, see if they're meeting those. It's really a skills check. And we again look at a few more developmental milestones. And then in seventh grade, we have our first standardized age norm test. And we've been using the Terra Nova for most of that time. So that we can get a sense of not only what are the students' academic skills, but how do they really rank amongst their peers in California. And almost always, they're up in the 90th percentile. We do have some outliers, and that's of course normal. Now, if these assessments suggest that a child would benefit from some of our support services, then we develop a plan for them. And so some of the things that we offer are therapeutic eurythmy with Maria Helen Hansen, developmental movement with Ingrid Schneider, extra lesson with Michelle Phelps, and small group academic pull-out sessions with Gabrielle Chernis. So we feel that most students benefit if they have extra learning needs from some of these options. However, if a student has greater needs than what these services can cover, then we'll refer the family out for outside testing, outside tutoring, other kinds of support. So that's where we are right now with our educational support, and I think Jessica will continue with what's happening in that realm at the high school. Jessica Eicher, our high school chair.
Jessica Eicher, I'm the high school chair. And I'm just going to piggyback right on there. The educational support here at the high school is in some ways different because the high school is different where it moves much more quickly, first of all. We don't have the students for as long a time. And we also have students coming in the 9th grade who already have established 504 plans, and it's at the beginning that we're starting to work with students. And I'm really taking the long view here, and I just kind of want to do the bird's eye and say that there's been really enormous growth in the program. We have now a full-time position, first of all, of an ed support coordinator, which we didn't have before. It was really a faculty member who did additional support to students when they could. And now we have a full-time dedicated support person. And the kind of support that we offer has also changed. While it was usually, well, for many years, it was actually mainly an administrative role to help coordinate the 504 plans and to do advocacy for standardized testing. And to coordinate different tutors and outside support for students, we've been able to offer more direct support also. And that's actually by our ed support coordinator, Margot Engels, working with students. And also by having an outside ed support coordinator who comes on campus twice a week to work with designated students. It's our individualized learning committee, we call it the ILC committee, that actually is the backbone of that program. So we meet weekly, and we are really the group that are looking at students who may not yet have been identified of needing extra support, or making sure that students who have a 504 are getting the support they need. So every Tuesday we meet, and that core group is myself, and I'm really the kind of academic role. Paige Whiteside, who's our high school counselor, and she has this social emotional lens, and Margot Engels, who's our ed support specialist and has the expertise here specifically with learning differences. And we didn't have an ILC committee 10 years ago. As I said, it was a part-time support person. We've also made a really concrete and specific effort to have the ed support coordinator involved in the admissions process, and instituted, one-on-one meetings for any students who we feel might or already do have a learning profile that would need attention coming in. And that's been an important part of also setting expectations of what support we can offer and what support we can't offer here at the high school. And this year, we have done it in the past, but we're piloting a kind of different kind of study skills for students, just for more generalized support. Anybody can come. We've done one lunchtime program that's a little more targeted towards what we call executive functioning skills, like note-taking, making sure students have a planner, all the things that a 9th grade student needs to learn, regardless of their learning profile. And we're actually hoping to expand that and try some different ways to do that and make it available for students. Because not every student wants to spend their lunch doing executive functioning, as you can imagine. And then finally, I just wanted to mention that we've joined what's called Basel LV, which is the Bay Area Independent Schools Learning Difference Association. And it's really a network of professionals in independent schools. And this makes sure that our objectives are aligned with other schools, and I feel like it's really that piece of outreach and our best practices and working in connection. So that's what I'm going to say about continuing the ed support here at the high school. And we're going to go right to the next section, which is relationships, which is my favorite topic. So the goals for that we've set here are refine communications with school constituents, understand and promote multiculturalism, actively recruit more diversity, broaden San Francisco community outreach and partnerships, enhance alumni engagement, and explore the vision of a one school, one community, which I feel like in many ways Laurel's actually touched on a little bit. But as I actually have stood up here for several town halls in a row and talked about diversity work, which along with communication is one of my passions, and I wanted to update you on the equity and diversity work that we've done right now. I think last year I mentioned kind of re-looking at the structure of our committee. And I'm happy to say that we've realized the goal of restructuring the Multicultural Council here at the school. And this is a full school overview. And now we really have a healthy and focused board, high school, grade school, and parent diversity committees working. And I feel the groups are meeting, I know the groups are meeting regularly now and communicating and are really moving forward on shared goals. We've also agreed to a new framework with 4 different areas or categories, which now are the framework for our equity work. And I'm just going to name them quickly. So within these different areas, we have our goals and different progress indicators, and then kind of specific work in the matrix. The first is access and equity. The second is diversity in curriculum. The third is campus and community climate. And the fourth is student learning and development. And this is actually going to help us organize and measure and evaluate the work we're doing. And this is work that we've agreed to in our accreditation, the cycle of our accreditation, which is 7 years. And that will help us actually do that kind of more evaluative work, the kind of question that you were asking before. This Friday, we have an in-service day every February. There's one faculty day where we come together. And this year we are focusing on equity work. Called this year, the workshop is called Confronting Race, Culture, and Ethnicity. And we're working with 2 outside consultants. And that will be the full grade school, high school, and administration all together doing this important work. And I think this is an example, like in that category, this could be both the categories of diversity in curriculum, because that kind of work directly impact those kind of questions for curriculum. But it's also a climate question, right? Like if you're doing an unconscious bias workshop, that's going to affect the climate of inclusion someplace. And then, for example, creating new hiring protocols and finding venues where we can get diverse candidates for open positions, which we do have next year, is something we're working on. And this would be an example of that access and equity piece. Finally, I want to mention that this is an effort that I see now happening in Waldorf schools in a bigger way too. So OSNA is the Association of Waldorf Schools in North America, and the annual conference that they hold this year is dedicated to social justice. And it's called Exploring Place, Race, Class, and Gender in Waldorf Education. So I hope we're going to get many Waldorf, our own faculty there to kind of think about it in that bigger picture way. I always think that one of the gifts of Waldorf education is the global piece and connecting to all different schools. So I'm looking forward to And Mitch, I think you're going to come back up and talk a little bit more about the
Yes,
committee.
we're going to talk about, I just
I'm
want
happy to answer
Yeah.
questions.
to thank you, Jessica. I realized just sitting there, there's a lot of stuff that we're talking about tonight because we're a big giant school now. And if there's anything that you want to get involved with, like if, something that Jessica said kind of sparked your interest, reach out to any of us that are talking. I wanted to give you guys a little brief overview of our alumni program because it is growing every year, and we're getting better at staying in contact with students when they leave, and we're now really for the first time experiencing a lot of children of alumni applying to the school and coming in as the little nursery kids and kindergarten kids. And so it's exciting that as a school, we're now old enough that our kids are having kids. And not too soon for some of us. But so our alumni program really kind of, it's always been there because our alumni want to come back and see the teacher. We started formalizing it about 8 years ago by just reaching out to alumni, trying to find key contacts in every class, and then having them reach out because as a class, they like to stick together. We now have about 16 alumni across many years, and we have an alumni chair who is Lawrence's daughter. It's Leah is helping us out with kind of coordinating our program. It is primarily focused on having them re-engaged with the school and us finding ways to connect them back together. We have alumni who are coaching for our middle school teams. We have them employed at the school in aftercare. I worked with an alum for all of last year in my office. We're helping them promote different projects that they have going on. So we have an upcoming event from James Freeberry. We'll be presenting the Odyssey 7, I believe, where he actually memorizes the Odyssey. He did the first 2 books a couple of years ago, but now he's coming back and he's going to do the Odyssey 7. It's really incredible. We've got some awesome alum out there doing good work. And as they're getting older, we're now seeing that they also want to give back financially, which is also great. And so we have already received from just alumni nearly $20,000 towards the campaign. And some of these are gifts from kids that are just getting out of college are giving back because they realize how great this education was for them, and they want to continue passing it on. So we're very excited to know that all of your children are going to stay engaged with us and keep coming back. I know the teachers love it because the kids come back and kind of tour the school, especially at the grade school. They want to see their old classrooms that are still there.
And some of their teachers, right?
Some of their teachers are still there. Exactly. Yes. So that's our alumni program. Again, we're continuing to work on that, but it is showing great signs. And we have 2 big events every year. One at over the holidays in December that's for alumni and alumni parents, and then we have an alumni party during the summer, and regularly have 50 to 80 alum come back for those. So those are really fun. I'm now going to turn it over to Craig to talk about governance.
Totally cross, because we're all going to keep coming up. But also to note, as I've been kind of going through this, some of these are specific goals, like, hey, we want to change the relationship to technology. A lot of these goals across these areas are more, long-term, evolving kind of visions and focus areas. So, and you can see the mix. So it's hard, some of them we're evaluating specifically, did we do this or not? Others is how are we doing on this continuum? So governance was a big deal 10 years ago. Like I mentioned, the school had grown so quickly, and how do we manage that growth? How do we engage parents? How do we talk to each other? How do we make sure decisions that are made are shared among people and created by groups of people? So I'm going to read the goals quickly, and then talk a little bit about the board development in particular. But it was, promote responsiveness, transparency, and accountability. That's ongoing. We've done well sometimes, and sometimes we don't, and it's an ongoing thing, but the focus on that continues. Balance policy setting and administrative implementation, formalize faculty, administrative, and staff responsibilities, recognize the importance of parent representative bodies, which we heard a little bit about today from the Multicultural Council and others, and continue board development. So, before we go to the next slide, I've made a lot of progress in this area. In fact, I went for the first time to the Osler conference that Jessica was talking about, and you see an arc of development of Waldorf schools that start as a one-room schoolhouse, and then they grow to a full K through 8th grade, and then some grow to a high school. And through that process, governance lags far behind the development of the program. And so when we go to those conferences, we see how we're 4 or 5 years ahead of where the next school is in terms of how we've organized ourselves. And a big part of that is actually the board. So, the board at the beginning of any school, feels like you're just hands-on. Board members are doing things like literally writing marketing copy, or sometimes putting their nose in the classroom where it doesn't belong. And because they feel like this is what the school needs, and they're just hands-on volunteers. And our board has really evolved to kind of the highest level of board development, which is really focusing on strategy. This was one of the first steps, was the board was really, along with the College of Teachers, leading the strategic planning process the first time it happened. And one of the first things they realized is we got to get better at playing our role as opposed to getting involved in other people's roles. And the board is really focused on fundraising, big picture strategy development, and that's really where the board should be focused, and be responsive to what the community needs. And so one example of that is, as Gerhard mentioned, it was about 4 years ago when the board and college meet every year together, once or twice, the College of Teachers. And at that moment, it was clear we've been severely underpaying teachers for a long time. And we're still, as Gerhard said, we're getting close to our goal of being the highest paid Waldorf teachers. But the cost of living in San Francisco has continued to rise, and it's a real challenge. And we're still trying to figure out how to make it livable for a teacher to be in San Francisco. But that was really from this meeting, the College of Teachers said, this is what we're seeing. These young teachers can't afford to stay here, and we can't recruit new teachers. And so then the board kind of took up the idea of creating a strategy, how are we going to raise salaries, and that was the board's job, responding to what the community needed, and then setting a strategy, and then letting staff and faculty execute on it. So I'm going to just leave it at that with that little, because we're starting to run out of time, and there's a lot here, and we can talk more if you have other questions. Advancement is next, so I'm going to stay up here for a little bit. Lots of goals in advancement, kind of split among marketing and fundraising. And then I'll say a few words quickly, and then I'll turn it over to Mitch.
I was going to talk about governance. But
I'm happy for Sheldon, but I'm not.
No, I think that's like, I think you should talk about
Yeah,
it.
please.
Okay,
I think so, because it's important.
Yes.
Yeah.
right.
Governance moment.
It's especially important because governance in Waldorf schools is pretty different from governance in other schools. And I'm really just going to give you a few highlights, literally highlights, from the document that's on the website. So you can look for it and have a more complete picture than you want. So as you heard, we have a wonderful board of trustees made up of volunteers that are parents, alumni parents, faculty, friends of the school, and they get together and bring their expertise to set the legal, fiscal, and strategic policies to ensure the health of the school. Their tasks and duties include approving the budget, setting tuition, and overseeing capital campaigns. They delegate the pedagogical life of the school to the College of Teachers, which is a group of committed teachers who usually have been at the school for a long time, and if not, have been involved in Waldorf education for a pretty long time. And they're a group made up, we are a group made up of high school, grade school, nursery teachers and parenting as well. And we meet twice a month and review educational programs, envision the future of the school pedagogically, talk about student life, teacher development, and study anthroposophy, which is our guiding principle in Waldorf education. And really, that sets a Waldorf school apart because we are responsible for the pedagogical life of the school as opposed to the administration being responsible for the pedagogical life. The reason we meet only every other week is that, as many have mentioned before, we are a large school, a large organization, and we delegate, the college delegates work to the grade school steering committee and the high school steering committees that are subsets of the college, more or less, with some exceptions. And these two committees meet more regularly, and at times to questions that are more specific to either the grade school or the high school. And when I say grade school, I include nursery and parenting. Then the day-to-day management of the school is delegated by the Board of Trustees to the administrative director, who implements the policies set by the Board of Trustees, provides support to the College of Teachers when pedagogical issues overlap with administrative ones, and is a spokesperson for the school, and also oversees the business and administrative operations of the school. The school administrative staff, you've met many of them tonight, the director of finance, the advancement director, our administrative coordinators, you know them well, Cory and Lisa at the high school, and the admissions directors at both high school and grade school. And then we have created, some years ago, as we redefined the governance structure of the school, we created the administrative council, and most of us are here tonight as well, all those people I just mentioned, plus a representative from the grade school faculty not on steering our college, and one from the high school faculty also not on steering our college. We meet every week and we review what's happening in those different bodies of the school. We talk about issues. We are a central leadership team, and we work to ensure that decisions are made in a timely way. We delegate a lot. The decision is to go back to this committee or this one. And we work also with the board as far as we make final budget recommendations to the Board of Trustees. Thanks. So that's our, in a nutshell, our governance structure, and you're welcome to refer to this document on the website.
The name of the document.
It is
Shared system of shared governance.
System of Shared Governance.
And, while it sounds technical, it's actually, for me, it's really exciting. That's how a big organism like this operates effectively. And parents understand what's going on, and teachers feel a part of what's going on, and that's how you build morale, that's how you build effectiveness, and how you can execute on these. So, and that's one area where, we're constantly refining, because people are different as human beings in this system, and it needs to be constantly refined. So I'm mindful of the time, it's 8:15, so I don't want to be here too long. So I'm going to actually, I'm not even going to read these this time, if that's okay. Everybody can see them that are there. But I just wanted to talk quickly, I'm going to talk a little bit, very quickly, about marketing, which is something that the school did very little of 10 years ago, and has done a much better job of just really this is one area where we've hired a marketing coordinator who happens to be in the back row, right? But even before that, over these 10 years, the previous administration, about 5 years ago, created this kind of a retention and marketing plan. And then Laurent's talked a lot about those things that help bridge the gap between the grade school and the high school. And one of the goals was to build this high school, and we want as many students to come from the grade school to the high school as possible. So out of that grew a lot of these things that Laurent's talked about, was this focus on how do we retain students? What do they need to get to the high school? Throughout that process, we also created what we call the Parent Ambassador Network. There's also some of those parent ambassadors in this room. It's run by Kim. And that's really one of the things we discovered years ago, was that the most effective marketing is word of mouth marketing from somebody you trust to somebody who's asking you a question. And so we continue to do a lot of work on that kind of human scale marketing. And we'll talk a little bit later, but we're in the process of kind of the next phase. What's the next phase of evolution and effectiveness of marketing, and how can we be more nuanced and more focused? And so we're in a process now, which will hopefully be kind of rolling out in the next year and a half or so, about how do we refine our messaging, where are the venues we want to reach people, how do we reach the people who want to find us more effectively. With that, I'll turn over to you to talk a little bit more about the fundraising side.
Yeah, I think the main thing that strategically we have done in advancement is to create a culture that our families understand why we have to fundraise as a school, and also to show what transformation can happen if we fundraise. Programs that are just supported by tuition can get us so far. But as we come together and raise endowments that then start adding to our operating budgets every year, or as we are in the middle of this campaign that's going to add a facility where we can actually have our entire community under one roof. Those are the things that we needed to do as a community, and not kind of leverage the future. So we need to give now, rather than just continuing to take debt on that then might put us in a precarious situation. And so I think we've done a great job with the leadership of the board, and Craig as leader of the board and now as administrative director. And I think we've demonstrated that we're headed in the right direction. Gerhard, this is our final area.
Financial and sustainability facility. So, it's nice to see where we were 10 years ago. It's really, enrollment at the high school. We wanted to explore a grade school, sister school concept, which didn't materialize, and it's actually good. Green building, sustainable living, then endowment, tuition assistance, explore the phase 2 of the high school build-out option, and raise faculty, staff salaries and benefits. So these were the goals. So what did we do? We expanded the nursery program. We more than doubled it in 2014. High school enrollment went from 140 to 163. I like how you actually can see in a 10-year overview of the strategy. For example, the endowment was raised from 416,000 to 3.6 million. So just by doing that, it set the basis for the next step, which was we were able to refinance actually at the earliest point possible. We could call our $14 million bond at 5.9%, on October 1st, 2016, and refinance at that date to 11.7 million at 2.4%. So that, that dynamic continued, and that refinance enabled us to get ready for the phase 2 for the high school build-out. It was a 4-year planning process. You go through all the permitting and planning and permutations of what it took like this. So it's now unfolding. You see the whole plan coming over years, coming to be shown and being visible. We purchased the property next door. That's just a must. That's the only way we can grow as an urban environment. And we will, in the process salaries, how I mentioned, 25%. So I think it's a good track record. So back to Craig now.
Yes.
Going into the future now. What do we do next?
So here's, there's a couple things that are either in progress or, we haven't done. One of, Jessica talked a lot about multiculturalism. That's still an area we have a long way to go. I mean, we need to diversify the faculty. We need to continue to diversify the curriculum, although we've come a long way. And diversify, attract and retain more diverse students as well. One of the things we didn't really touch on deeply, but the grade school did a deep evaluation of the technology policy and how do we, as this was I think 4 years ago that it was kind of rolled out, but already at the beginnings of the technology revolution, how are we meeting that as a Waldorf school? And we looked deeply at what does it mean for us, and we kind of re-established our technology policy at the grade school. One of the areas that we've talked about but we haven't been able to execute on is what does the technology curriculum look like at the high school? I mean, kids use computers, blah, blah, blah. But what is the real technology curriculum? How are we preparing kids to deal with this new world of technology? And we haven't done that yet. And so hopefully that'll be the next strategic plan also. But so this, what it gets us down to is, you can go to the next slide, is, this is really the next step. As you can see, we've done most of what we've set out to do and the things that are quantifiable, and the others, we're on the path of here's how we're getting better at communication, transparency, et cetera. And we've gone through this growth. And so the question that is next is, what does the next phase look like? What does the world need? What do these students need? How do we get better at, how do we become more healthy? How do we become more efficient and effective in what we do? And that's going to be who knows what the next strategic plan theme is going to be, but in my mind, the growth has happened, and what's next for us? And that's what we'll be doing is, the plan is to recreate this process. It's about, to create this strategic plan took over a year of input from hundreds of parents, faculty, staff, and we're thinking about doing that again with the input from a whole new generation of parents, including alumni and new teachers, et cetera. So with that, I'm going to stop, and we'll have 10 minutes or so of Q&A for any of us who are here. Please, on any subject.
Controversial. It won't remind me how long I've been here. With the campaign for the center, which includes the gym, I do feel that we have, as a school continuum, an ambivalence about athletics that I would love to see us address in some forum, have some kind of conversation that involves, the range of parents and people who are involved in that, to really see, where we are at, how we work with athletics, the middle school grades and what happens in high school. Feels a little bit to me like the math bridge, like we're doing one thing here, but then we expect something else here, and what do we want as a school, what do our kids need, what makes sense. So I think that opening of that venue, that it really makes sense to have that conversation, and feels like a very, I don't even know where it falls, in the scope of things, but it is a really important part of the middle school, high school experience for a lot of kids.
It wasn't anywhere in this last strategic plan.
I know, but like, it
Right,
only
but it's
comes
really
up when
important.
there's a crisis or something, but it really is something that we could, work with.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, that's actually one of the outcomes of this.
A facilities there, but what do we do
Yeah.
about the programs and programming, and what are our expectations, and how are parents, some of the parents talk about, we need a booster, group for athletics, and we need a booster group for theater and, performances, like how do those groups interact with film, and, that we want to grow some of those areas ourselves.
I also think there's some, work for communication at the, parents at the high school level. Having had classes and
you know, those of us with grade school, we would have a class that's interactive. And I know that the school has technology for the different grades to interact, but for example, in the 9th grade, it has yet to be made apparent that there's any way for us as parents to reach out and just say, hey, this cool thing's going on. Right, and I know that the technology is there, because I was an administrator in the other class. So that seems to continue to stumble. And again, if I wanted to say, hey, there's this cool event, maybe a bunch of 9th graders want to meet at the beach, I have no way of doing that cleanly.
Yeah, heard.
Right.
I think it's actually, I would suggest that could come to parent council, which, you know, meets with me and Craig once a month and has meetings once a month also. And I know that you've been a part of that group before. I don't know if you are right now. No, I didn't think so. I hear that. Yeah, I would agree that there's room.
I know the tool exists, it just never.
It needs to be made available to everyone with whatever policies the school wants to have for it. It's a lack for this, since the new rollout of the.
Yeah, and we've improved, so you've been at the, we've improved some of the actual, I think, I've really appreciated as the high school chair, being able to count on, for example, the parent council as a way to get information out in certain ways, or to get information back from different classes. That's something I've appreciated as far as communication, but this would be the next step.
This is parent to parent about school.
Yeah, so there's no way to build, you know, a community and then try to reach out to the ones that were in the class before. It's not quite that time in the class meeting either. We might get a little bit of face time,
But you might say, is anyone going to spring night? Do you want to make a table together or something? But we can't do that.
Yes. Yay, spring night.
Like that?
Good plug, Karen.
Offered a stipend for different classes to have social events, and I don't know if we publicize that this year, but I just thought probably big bad publicize that again.
Other questions? Mitch, there was a slide at one of the slides where at the top it talked about rebranding. I don't know if you can pick that up. Or is that possible?
Potentially. I think that.
Too far into it. But I do feel like, oh, there it is. Yeah. Oh. We've been under advancement then. And then one more before advancement. Yeah. Oh yeah, develop an articulate and clear brand. I saw that. That caught my eye, and I feel like we do have.
Yeah.
We've done a lot on that. Like I feel like maybe it's just me knowing more about the school. Like I'm not sure because I've been with the school longer, but I feel like there's just been a lot of progress in that area. And I was wondering what other people thought about that. I mean, what is our brand at this point? I was wondering if it matched what it is in my head.
Well, I think Kim's right there, but I think that's one of the things we're working on is. I think we have many different ideas out there. That's what we're learning. It's different ones for the grade school and the high school. And one of the things we're trying to create is the next phase is a unified. I mean, you can call it a brand, but it's really what do we want people to think of when they think of our school, and what do we want them to know that's happening here is the first thing they think of. And so we haven't really had that for the whole school actually. We've had some, in everybody's mind they might know what Waldorf. They have a vision of a Waldorf grade school and some vague notion of a Waldorf high school. But what does the San Francisco Waldorf school mean to people in this city? That's one of the things we're trying to create. We actually have a working group, Laura Ellis is part of it, and a handful of other teachers to really to articulate that in a better way. And it's something we've done in different fits and starts, but I don't feel that it's been cohesive. Kim, you want to?
Yeah, and I think it needs to be changing and evolving, and where are we right now, and what have we done, and what can we assess, and how we communicate to prospective families, and get them in the door, and how is the communication of what should be through the grades and as your child grows.
One interesting thing that's came to my attention recently is that at the Board of Supervisors today, they were debating this growth in population that was creating it for the first time in many years, the need for new schools, public schools in San Francisco, that they're actually feeling like they're behind in the identification of and building the public schools. They've only built one in 30 years. So it made me wonder what the demographics are of our changing city, and if the public schools are getting more kids, then likely the independent schools are going to have more children too. So looking at those demographics as part of the 10-year strategic plan would be important.
There's a question online. They want to ask, do we consider buying property near the grade school?
Yes, absolutely. Whenever something comes up, which is especially right next to our school, it's almost an obligation. You know, we need to seriously look into that, because that, as I mentioned, that's the only way we as an urban school can grow. And we don't want to have more than the campuses we already have. So we will seriously look at the feasibility. We look at the zoning. We look at financing options, and we certainly need to look at each individual case that comes up in that way. Definitely.
Yay for the online question.
Take the Krasny show. And on Twitter, here's another question.
So maybe we have time for maybe one more.
We're a new family with a high school freshman, and I'm really curious about technology and how you view the students' relationships with technology. I know we've overheard people saying, "Oh, they're anti-technology at Waldorf," and I feel like it's more that they value other ways of student engagement with the material, which I really like. But it's an area of interest, and I don't know if it sounds like it's something you're redefining, and maybe the greater Waldorf community is also. Maybe something to say about
I like the way that you described it. I agree with that. That we have to think about other ways of expansion, and that we use at the high school technology as a tool. I think part of that perception that you're talking about is because we do have a different vision of technology for the lower grades and at the grade school. And that lives also in a perception of what Waldorf is. Because certainly at the grade school and for early childhood, we really do ask that kids are not using media, which, you know, that's not the case at the high school. We don't have this kind of conversations. But what we want to do is, and I think right now technology, I mean, we all know as parents that this is a relevant topic. The question of social media and technology for everybody is a question. And it's particularly relevant. So what I think Craig was kind of referring to is us also developing specific technologies like a computer science program, and thinking about what we're doing in our Waldorf way, which is a developmental curriculum. You know, thinking, ninth grader, what does that mean? And the bridge, as Laurel's talked about, that starts before then as well. 10th, 11th, where do we want to end up with 12th graders into the world who are not being used by technology, right, but who know how to use it. And I'd be happy to have that.
And we have some great speakers that come back to the students who really want to always have a relationship with technology.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of questions. There's a question about health, there's a question about addiction, and then there's also these other questions about skills and learning and you know, making important things in the world and being a part of things. So, you know, it's not just one question. Yeah.
So on that point, in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I've noticed there's been a lot more effort to talk about video literacy and teach kids about things like online predators and teach them about phishing and catfishing and all of that, to try to really get them ready for some of the dangers that are out there. I've been really impressed by that curriculum.
Yeah, thank you.
And their online presence, and what does that
Yeah.
mean, and, you know, it stays with them and so forth. And also, what's not nice to say. You know? And I mean, like, sometimes things are so funny, you think, oh, that's really funny, but then you really look at it and go, well, why is that funny? That's actually not. So that they're learning those, we call it center civics, it's our curriculum.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, and really, we're a school that believes in relationships, so, the classes that, have, like, we're never gonna be a school, for example, well, who knows, we'll go through a whole evaluation process, but we're not gonna be a school that's gonna have a one-to-one laptop situation. Like, we just know that, that's not, beyond what we send other kids.
Well, thank you all for coming. It's, we're a little over time. It was so nice to meet you.